Hello there everyone, my name is Crazy Caleb and welcome to Video Poker. This is a KTANE mod module and probably one of the trickier mods in recent time in terms of explaining how the rules work. This module itself I've learned recently and I struggled with for a very long time, and it's kind of an annoying module, but once you figure out how it works, it really gets a lot of fun. But it's a very tedious process, I should mention. But first things first, let's hop right into this and exactly what are we going to be doing with this module. So, as you can see, this is Video Poker. It makes itself very obvious what mod it is. And it's going to have a display of which game you're playing below it in this tiny display here. In this case, we're playing Deuces Wild, which we'll get into what that exactly is in a moment. But we also have 5 cards that will be displayed, in this case, for the first time face down, based off of these Keep Talking Nobody Explodes icon. It'll have a play 5 credits, it'll have a bet 1, it'll have a credit of 1,000, that's what you currently have. It will always be a credit of 1,000, by the way. Then they're going to have game info, which when we click on this button, it will show us each of the different betting odds. So in this case, if you bet 1 and you happen to get a natural royal flush, this means you get 250, 4 deuces means 500, and so on and so forth. And this is going to be up for the range of 1 credit to 5 credits, and that's what each of the columns represent. Next up, we have speed, which is effectively basically just going to be how fast the game runs. There are 3 different settings. I pretty much, or rather 4, I guess, if you think about it. There's no speed at all. I usually just let it be the default of 2. It really doesn't matter that much. It just depends on how fast you really want to do the mod, and even then, the mod itself is pretty quick on 2 speed. We have bet 1, which will effectively increase the counter by 1. And it will go up to 5, or rather it will cycle through up to 5. Bet max will actually bet 5, which most of the time you're actually going to be playing 5 credits, and I pretty much just to say, hey, bet max. And then there is a deal button, so in this case we can deal whenever we want to. I pretty much just bet the max every single time. Like I said, the credits just do not matter, and the bet max will automatically take care of the dealing instead of betting 1 every single time and then pressing the deal button. So that's the way how the module interface works. Let's get into what the actual rules of the module are, and in order to disarm this module. Well, first off, to disarm this module, play 5 hands in a row using optimal strategy. Now, what is the optimal strategy here in this case that we're going to be taking a look at? It is the rest of the manual. And as you can see, this is a lot to look at, but do not worry. I will guide you through this, and I will make sure that you guys understand exactly how this works. Any non-optimal play will result in a strike, and it will reset every hand that you've played beforehand, because it has to be 5 hands in a row. Once disarmed, you can continue to play video poker without any penalty, so therefore, you can simply just play video poker to your heart's content. This module can also be disarmed with a single payout of 1,200 credits or more. This is specifically referring to a jackpot. Now, a jackpot is any payout with 1,200 credits or more is considered a jackpot. Triggering a jackpot will cause the machine to display the message call attendant. If this happens, a claim button will appear. Press it to receive your payout and disarm the module. That's basically a unicorn that happens. So if you get something like, for example, a natural royal flush, and you happen to be betting 5 credits here, you would receive a payout of 4,000 credits, and that would basically disarm the module. This is a rare case, as you would suspect from a jackpot, and it is basically the unicorn of this module. If you happen to get that, you automatically solve the module, because basically you've won. You've won at Video Poker Life. So this is just simply all of the rules that I was discovering about the module. It has a standard 52 card deck. Play begins by betting between 1 and 5 credits, bet 1 and bet max, then press the deal button. Warning, since jackpots pay more relative to the 5 credit bet than any other bet size, attempting to start a hand without 5 credit bet is considered non-optimal, and will result in a strike as well as resetting the streak of correctly played hands. So in this case, if we were to bet 1, as you can see, you actually don't have the ability to do that. And that gave us a strike. So, yeah. So that's exactly what I mean by we're going to be playing 5 credits. So in this case, let's actually bet the max and let's see what's going to happen here. It says good luck, and it gives us 5 different cards here. The game deals the player 5 random cards, 5 cards at random. The player chooses which card to keep and which to discard. Now, the way that we're going to do this is we're going to be keeping a specific amount of cards. And pressing each individual card will let it be, will give it a held message at the top, and pressing them again will simply get rid of it. So we're trying to figure out which cards we want to keep, if any, and then we're going to then effectively draw the rest of the remaining cards afterwards. So then we're going to, the resulting poker hand is then evaluated, and the player is paid out according to the game's pay table. For the most part, that's really not relevant. The only one that you're going to want to care about is if you win a high card like the 4,000 here or the 2,500 with the 4 deuces. That's kind of just what you're going to be working with here. So then let's take a look. So other usage instructions, press the game info to view what you have. This is going to be very useful actually, because we were going to have to differentiate between different decks and different cards that we're going to be playing with. So be very careful with that. Use the speed button to control the speed. When not claiming a jackpot, hold any button for 3 seconds to return to the module and your bankroll to its initial state. That's just effectively, as you can see, you can just start it over again. And then you can bet max as you so please, and therefore you can get actually a series of different cards. Weirdly enough, you can actually just keep re-rolling, but it will also reset the number of correctly played hands. So it's effectively just a complete reset of the module. So just be very careful with that. A disarmed module will remain disarmed. So now the rest of the manual has a bunch of stuff which I will be covering kind of randomly, so just trust me on this. I will cover what I need to cover, but the first things first that I actually do need to cover is at the very bottom of the manual. For those of you who are familiar with the poker hands, this will look very familiar to you. We have royal flushes, we've got 5 of a kind, straight flush, 4 of a kind, full house, flush, straight, 3 of a kind, 2 pairs, and 1 pair. If you need to view these at any given point, just pause the video and see, so you can get yourself familiarized with poker hands. But I imagine that all of you who are watching this tutorial have played poker or understand the rules of poker at some given point. They are fairly simple to catch on. So the one thing I do want to cover though is a note on the straight draws. We're going to see a couple bits of straights or partial straights within this module, and we're going to want to make sure that we know the 2 rules that go with this. There's going to be a couple cases where we're going to check for open-ended draws and inside or outside straight draws or inside straight draws. Now, what exactly do these mean? Well, if we take a look at the example, say we get the 6 of hearts, 7 of diamonds, the 8 of spades, and the 9 of spades, for example. So in this case, this would effectively be 4 to a straight, effectively. Now, the way how an outside straight draw works is it can be completed with one of 2 different non-wild ranks, which effectively is a 5 of some suit and a 10 of some suit. They are effectively on the outside of the straight. They need to be on the outside of the straight for it to be complete. You can't be like an 8 of spades in there somewhere, or 8 of hearts somewhere in there. That's not how that works. It has to be specifically on the outside. So there will be a couple rules that do refer to this, so be very careful with that. And likewise, with the inside straight draw, say we have the 5 of hearts, 6 of diamonds, 7 of spades, and the 9 of spades. We now need to complete the straight with only the 8. That's what an inside straight draw is. It can only be completed with one single non-wild rank, such as 5, 6, 7, 9. This also includes ace, 2, 3, 4, and jack, king, queen, ace. So now, it's a bit specific, so just be very careful with that rule. It does include ace, 2, 3, 4, and it does include jack, king, queen, ace. So just bear that in mind, that there is this condition that you have to pay attention to. But in this case, for this straight, this would simply need to have the 8 involved in it. There we go. That's the way how those are going to work. You'll see these eventually come up in the module in both ones that we do here. So let's hop right into this first one. There is one other thing that appears, I guess it's sort of rare in a way, but there is penalty cards that you need to pay attention to, and these suckers can ruin you. I honestly don't know what the best way to handle them is, but I believe it's going to be specifically in cases where exceptions apply, as far as I understand them. If someone who knows this module a lot better than me, specifically with penalty cards, understands this, that would be great if you could leave a comment. But a penalty card is a potentially useful card that must be discarded in order to go for a better hand. In certain situations, these can influence optimal play. For example, consider the hand 3 of clubs, 5 of hearts, 10 of hearts, Jack of Hearts, and King of Spades. In 9-6, jacks are better. Normally, a suited 10 jack, in this case the T is always going to be referring to a 10, by the way, I should clarify that, is more valuable than an unsuited jack king. So normally a suited, so what, and by the way, suited means that they just have the same suit. So in this case, the 10 of hearts and the jack of hearts happen to have the exact same suit. Is more valuable than an unsuited jack king. However, if you kept the 10 of hearts and the jack of hearts, the discarded 5 makes it harder to form a flush, because the 5 of hearts is a heart. Therefore, the 5 of hearts is known as a flush penalty card. It degrades the value of the submitted 10 jack to the point that you're better off keeping the jack king. So it's a little bit weird. And if we take a look at 9-6 jack, let me see if there's actually an exception for that. 9-6 jacks are better. So if we go down to the suited 10 jack, which is an F, unsuited jack king beats suited 10 jack if the latter has a flush penalty card. Right here. So there will be special rules and exceptions that you have to pay attention for each of them. So just be very careful with that. So that's what it means with the penalty cards, I believe, is just you have to pay attention for different exceptions, which will come in specific rules, especially when you're dealing with lower cards, which you will deal with that quite frequently, let me be honest with you. And that's really all we need to cover before we actually get into this module here. So now, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to find the deck, the game that we're playing, effectively. Now, there is several variants of each of the, like there's Deuces Wild, there's Jacks Are Better, there's Bonus Poker, there's different variants of Bonus Poker, and we want to make sure that we can figure out which one that we're working with here, because as you can see, we've got Deuces Wild, Loose Deuces, we have Full Pay Deuces Wild, and Not So Ugly Ducks Deuces Wild. Now, the way that we're going to do this is going to be actually with the game info tab, because if we take a look here, there's going to be a couple different values, especially on the right column that I like to distinct with, that are going to be different each game. So if we take a look here, the 5 of a kind has a payout of 75 when you do the payout with 5 credits. If we take a look here at the 5 of a kind here, the payout is 80. So this is not the deck that we're working with. So we're not doing the Not So Ugly Ducks variant. Deuces Wild. So now let's take a look at the next one. We've got Loose Deuces. There is a 75 here, so now let's check the rest of the column. So 4,000, 2,500, 125, 75, 40, 20, 15, 10, 10, 5. And just to make sure, we'll go to the other one too. The Full Pay. I believe it's particular. Full Pay, Deuces Wild. And as you can see here, immediately the 4 deuces only gives you a payout of 1,000 instead of 2,500. So therefore, we're working with Deuces Wild, Loose Deuces. There we go. So now, here's how we're going to begin this module. This is our deck that we're going to be working with here. And there is one thing we need to understand with Deuces Wild, and this is a very special case where this happens. The rest of the module is pretty normal, but with Deuces Wild, what's going to happen here is that in this variant, all 2s, also known as deuces, are wild cards. And how exactly do the wild cards work? There's a lot of rules that we got to go over before we actually get into the module. So just be very careful with this. So if we go up to the top, it'll explain. For variants with wildcard, the strategies are grouped by the number of wildcards in your hand. So in this case, we actually have no deuces right now, so we're going to be using the 0 deuces rank. But in Deuces Wild, the suits of all 2s are irrelevant. After all, a wild card is a wild card. So we'll see what that does in just a moment, because these are going to be very important, especially for Deuces Wild. So we got to be careful with this. But we also need to make sure that we use the strategies with the amount of wild cards in our hand currently, because the hand names assume that the wild cards have already been evaluated. So let's go down to the bottom. And for example, and it gives you a couple examples here. For example, a wild 3-3-7-7 is a full house, and a wild 5-6-7-8-9 is a straight. So in this case, it's a perfect substitution for whatever number or suit you're going to be working with effectively, because it is a 2. It does show up as a 2, but it will specifically show up as a wild card. You'll see what I mean in just a moment. So let's take a look and let's get into the actual working of this module. So down to loose deuces. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to look at the hand ranks of 0 deuces, and this is what we're going to be trying to keep effectively. So we're going to go through the list, and we're going to hit the first one that applies. And this is working with 0 deuces. This will be the list that we work with. And as you can see, if we scroll down here, hand ranks 1 deuce, hand ranks 2 deuces, 3 or 4 is going to be effectively keeping all deuces. So that's going to be what we're working with here. But for the most part, you will be seeing a 0 deuces case. So now we're going to want to go down this list, and we're going to want to keep every card that is relevant to each of these, to the first condition that applies effectively. And for the most part, the first couple rules are simply just going to be each of these wins effectively. Now, a natural royal flush. What is the difference between a royal flush and a natural royal flush? Now, natural royal flushes will only appear on deuces wild because of the fact that a wild card can influence a royal flush effectively. So then we have 4 to a natural royal flush. Now, this effectively means that you are 4 cards away from a royal flush. You are 1 card away from a royal flush. That effectively means you, for example, have a Jack of Hearts, Queen of Hearts, King of Hearts, and an Ace of Hearts. So you effectively just need the 10 of Hearts. So you're 4 to a natural royal flush. That means you're 1 away. So just be very careful with the wording of that. Next up, we have a straight flush. In this case, we actually don't even have any pairs. So we'll just start off there. And nor do we have any straights, nor do we have any flushes. So let's crack on through these rules pretty quickly. 4 of a kind, full house, flush, straight. 3 of a kind, we don't have any of those. 3 to a natural royal flush. And this is where the exceptions will start applying when you see this alpha. You will only apply them if we actually look at this rule. So just be very careful with that. 1 pair, 4 to an open-ended straight. We do not have that. 4 to a flush. 3 to a straight, flush. No, we're not even close to that. A suited 10 jack. Now we do have a 10 jack, but it's an unsuited because the suits themselves do not match. We have a diamond and a club. 3 to a straight flush. 3, 4, 6, 3, 5, 6, or 2 gaps except ace low. Now this is specifically referring to when you happen to have different rules like this. This is specifically going to be when you look at these few cards, because there will likely be a case where there will be another rule that applies. So we're only going to be looking for 3, 4, 6, 3, 5, 6, or 2 gaps present, except for ace low. So just be very careful with that. So yeah, these will be special conditions. It's originally 0 or 1 gap, except for ace low. And what ace low means is when you use, for example, ace 2, 3, 4, 5, instead of 10, jack, king, queen, ace, for example. The ace is the high instead of the ace, and the ace can be a low, but in this case, it's not referring to an ace low. So it will specifically tell you if it's not referring to an ace low. Then next up, suited 10, queen, or jack, queen, no. 4 to an inside straight, except for ace, 3, 4, 5, no. And suited 10, king, jack, king, or queen, king. We do not have any of those. So once we reach the bottom of the list, we therefore have to draw all of them. So let's do that. And just like that, that was correct. So let's continue on. And this is effectively what we're going to be doing. And here we go. Immediately right off the bat, I can see a 3 of a kind. So therefore, we will be keeping those. Because we don't have a natural royal flush. We don't have 4 to a natural royal flush. There's no straight flush. There's no 4 of a kind. There's no full house. Unfortunately, there's no jack or 5 that we can interchange with these two. There's no flush. There is no straight. So therefore, 3 of a kind is what we will be keeping. So let's draw that. And as you can see, we won the 3 of a kind. That will give us a payout of winning 5. Here we go. Okay, this is our wild card. And you'll definitely know when you see a wild card when it says wild, 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 wild. So therefore, we now are not going to be using the hand ranks of 0 deuces. We're going to be going down and using the hand ranks of 1 deuce. Different rules for different amount of deuces. So let's take a look here. So wild royal flush, no. And this is exactly what it means, the difference between a natural royal flush and a wild royal flush. Because the twos, you got to remember, the twos influence everything that they can work with. It's a wild card for a reason. So let's take a look and see what we can do here. So next up, we have the 5 of a kind, not even close. A straight flush, not even close. And by the way, a 5 of a kind can only appear on Deuces Wild, because it's a 52 card deck, and that's simply impossible to have 5 of the same kind without a wild card. So just be very careful with that. So straight flush, nope. 4 of a kind, nope. 4 to a wild royal flush, no. Full house, no. 4 to a straight flush. And it's giving us a couple subsections that we can work with. Wild 5, 6, 7, wild 6, 7, 8, wild 7, 8, 9, wild 8, 9, 10, or wild 9, 10, jack. None of those cases apply. We actually do get very close with a wild 2, 8, and 9, but we do not have a 10 to work with effectively. Flush, no. Straight, no. 4 to a straight flush. Non-wilds have a 0 or 1 gap, except ace low. 4 to a straight flush. Doesn't look like it, no. 3 of a kind, no. 4 to a straight flush. No. 3 to a wild royal flush. We don't even have anything that's close to a wild royal flush. Because we only have one face card, which is a king. 3 to a straight flush. Here we go. 3 to a straight flush. Wild 6, 7, wild 7, 8, wild 8, 9, or wild 9, 10 apply here. Okay. We do have a wild 8 and 9. But it is not a straight flush. It needs to be specifically a straight flush, because they need to be the exact same suit. So therefore, this does not apply. And then finally, deuce only. So therefore, we've reached the bottom. We're therefore going to only keep the deuce, and we're going to draw. And just like that, that's it. Okay, so now we're back up to 0 deuces. We have a natural royal flush. We do have a pair. We do have a pair of kings. So where is our one pair at? So now, one pair has an exception of Bravo. What is the Bravo exception? If you have 2 pairs, only keep one of them. It doesn't matter which one you keep. So there is a case where the 2 pairs can apply, because there is no 2-pair rule in this instance. So therefore, that will be where this exception applies. But in this case, it doesn't matter. We're not worried about this. So therefore, we do not have a natural royal flush. We don't have 4 to natural royal flush. There's no straight flush. There's nothing else here. It simply is just one pair that we will be keeping. And there we go. Okay, no straights, no deuces here, rather. And I immediately see another pair. Lovely. Let's take a look. No. We don't have anything special. It's pretty easy to spot something special. Especially when it's the first 10 ranks, you'll have a pretty good idea of what you're keeping. And in this case, we actually do. We'll be keeping the pair. And just like that, we've reached all 5 stages, which if you've been paying attention, the lights on the top have been changing green every stage I've been getting correctly, and therefore we have a solved module. So now, this variant is going to be the Jacks or Better series. Now, we're not going to have Wildcard present in this. Jacks or Better. So now let's take a look here. So now we'll go to game info, because there is also a couple of variants of Jacks or Better. There is several of them, as a matter of fact. So we need to figure out which one we're looking at. So 4,000, 250, 125, 40, not 45. So this is not 9.6 Jacks or Better. Next. 9.5 Jacks or Better. It's still looking at, it still has a 45 on here, so therefore we're not looking at this one. Here we go. 4,000, 250, 125, 40, 30, 20, 15, 10, 5. And I usually like to check a couple other ones. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Everything looks good on the flush side. So therefore, we're looking at the 8.6 Jacks or Better case. And there is an 8.5 Jacks or Better. But as you can see, with the flush, it needs to be a 30. But in this case, it's a 25. So there's always going to be some tell in terms of which one you're looking at. So we're looking at the 8.6 Jacks or Better. For the most part, the Jacks are better. It doesn't really change much. It's just a difference in payouts and different hand ranks that you got to pay attention for. But there is more rules usually to each of these sets, because of the fact that it's now going to be looking specifically for like unsuited variants, high pairs, 2 pairs, and unsuited Jack King, Queen King, and so on and so forth. You'll see this a lot in these sets. So let's bet the max. Ooh, okay. So we're 4 to a flush here. Not to a straight flush, but 4 to a flush. So this is a very nice possibility. We actually might get a flush out of this. So let's double check and make sure that every other hand rank that we're looking at is not present in this. It shouldn't be, because we don't have any pairs at all. No royal flush, no straight flush, no 4 of a kind, no 4 to a royal flush, no full house, no flush, no straight, no 3 of a kind, no 4 to a straight flush. Let me double check that. 3. No, the 3 is too far out of the way. If it was a straight flush, it would need to be 4 of spades, then 5 of spades, then 7 of spades, then 8 of spades. That would be 4 to a straight flush because of the fact that there's only a 6 that we need. It doesn't specify which way the straight needs to go, but in some cases it will, yeah. Because as you can see here, 4 to an open-ended straight is going to be referring to the outsides of a straight in order for that to work. So let's go back to 8-6, I believe it was, yeah. So that's where these cases will come in too. You'll see these quite often. So just keep that in mind. But in this case, I'm quite confident we don't have 2 pairs. We don't have a high pair. Now when it's referring to a high pair, what it will do is it's referring to a high card is a jack or higher, and the low card is 10 or lower. So a high pair would be 2 jacks, 2 queens, 2 kings, or 2 aces, for example. So that's what that means by a high pair. So just be very careful with that wording. 3 to a royal flush, no, and then 4 to a flush. So we're going to be holding onto these 4 cards, and we're going to be drawing. And just like that, we actually did get a flush. And quite a big payout, too. Okay, so let's take a look here. This really doesn't look like much. Yeah, it doesn't look like much at all. We have 3 to a straight. I've got a 3, 4, 5 that we can work with. We also have a jack on its own. So let's take a look, and let's see what we're working with. So we pretty much can skip everything that we were working towards. Now, when it's referring to this unsuited 10 jack queen king, this means we need to have all 4 of them, not just one of them. That's where the commas come in and separate each of these guys, so just be very careful with that. We do not have a low pair. 4 to an open-ended straight. We do have 3 to an open-ended straight if you want to be particular about that, but no, we do not have that. 3 to a straight flush, type 1. There's going to be different types of 3 to a straight flush draws. The number of high cards equals or exceeds the number of gaps, except ace low or 2, 3, 4. And you'll go over these specific variations when you're covering this module. It's a lot to go over. So next, a suited jack queen, we do not have that. Unsuited jack queen king ace, nope. Suited jack king, queen king, jack ace, queen ace, or king ace, we do not have that. Unsuited, these variants we don't have that. 3 to a straight flush, we do not have that. Unsuited jack king queen, unsuited jack queen or queen king. Suited 10 jack, unsuited jack king, suited 10 queen, unsuited jack ace queen ace or king ace, suited 10 king, single high card. Here we go. Single high card is what we're going to be keeping. So we're going to draw this. Okay, good deal. We do have a high pair. Very nice. High pair, I believe, is what we're going to be keeping. No, 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 nope, and nope. So high pair. So most of them you'll have a pretty good idea of what you're looking at, and it's actually quite nice. We do have 2 queen and king. It is suited, by the way. There is also 7, 8, 9, which is just a straight. Or rather, it's just 3 to a straight, but it's not a straight flush. So therefore, I believe we're going to be looking at suited queen king. I believe that's going to be the case. And once you start to familiarize yourself with a lot of what the rules are looking for, you can generally start to point out where things are in each list, because most lists are pretty much the exact same. It's just a lot of them have different variants of their own. So if you can start getting familiar with, like, the king-queen appearing, like suited king-queen and whatnot, like different pairs, pretty rank high and whatnot, yeah, that can really be useful for you. So just be very careful with that, and yeah, that's about it. So in this case, I believe comfortably that this is just keeping the suited queen king. And just like that, it was. Another suited queen king, but first a pair. There is a low pair, and as you can see, this has a much higher priority than a suited queen king. So therefore, we will instead be keeping the low pair. And just like that is a solved module. So effectively, this is what the optimal strategy is referring to, is each of these hand ranks. And I hope that gives you a better idea of what this module does. As you can see, we ran into no penalty cards there. And it is a bit of a lengthy module to work with. But once you understand how a lot of the rules work, it's just primarily then going to be checking for exceptions. And the exceptions are pretty easy to understand. Most of the time, they're just read this specific rule. I hope I covered all I needed to with this tutorial. Let's do one more video poker just for good measure. And the other variant of bonus poker is not really that relevant. It's just different rules. And more of them. So what do we get? Deuces Wild. Okay, good. I want to do more with Deuces Wild because this is going to be probably the trickiest one, the trickiest deck that you're going to be working with, because of the fact that you need to keep track of which rules you're working with based off of the amount of deuces. So let's figure out which one we're working with again. 4,000, 1,000, 125, 80, 50, 20, 20, 15, 10, and 5. This is not so ugly ducks. Okay, and we have one wild right off the bat. Let's take a look. So let's go down to our one deuce rule here. No royal flush, no 5 of a kind, no straight flush, no 4 of a kind. Ooh, okay. So this can be a 6-7. This is a 6-7 9-10. This is a. Oh, this is just a straight actually. Yeah. A straight is actually right here. This is just a straight. It gives you the answer of when you happen to have a group here. And this is a straight. So I think we're just going to keep the straight here. So I think we just keep it because I want to make sure. Yeah, that's it. And just like that, we win. That's nice. All right, no, back to 0 deuces. So we have a 10 jack. We've got an unsuited 10 jack, but in this case, if we take a look here, there is no cases where it cares about the unsuited groups. This might be a draw all. Natural royal flush, 4 natural royal flush. 4 to a straight flush. There's not even anything that's close to a straight at all. 4 to a flush. Suited, 1 pair. I think this is just a keep. Is this a draw all? Indeed it is. Okay. I believe this is another case of just drawing all. Yeah. I think this is another case. Because of the fact that the fact that they're unsuited doesn't matter in this deck. 3 to straight flush. No. I think it's just a draw all. Indeed it is. There is a pair. There is a 1 pair here. Now let's double check for any cases of flushes and whatnot, or straights rather. No flushes and no straight flushes, so it's just going to be keeping the 1 pair. There we go. Oh, and we get a full house. And as you can see, if we go down to 1 deuce, full house, pretty high up on the list. We don't have any of these to worry about. So therefore, we're going to be keeping everything. So sometimes you can get lucky, and the wild cards are actually a really nice card to get whenever you do get them. But getting to the hand ranks of like 2 deuces and stuff like that is kind of rare. So we'll hit draw. And we win. And therefore, as you can see, it's a bit of a simple module once you understand how all the rules work. And also when you get a really nice group of cards right there. So I think I'm going to leave it there. If you guys have any questions, the best way that I can give you an answer is just practice. And, of course, ask around whenever you don't understand a rule. I tried my best to explain this. This is a very weird module to explain. There is a lot. There's 24 pages, by the way, of just pure poker rules. So I was not about to go out and explain everything here, but I hope it gives you a better understanding that all you're effectively doing is you're just going through a list and you're finding the first thing that applies and then checking for some exception that applies. That's it for the most part. So it's just understanding a little bit of the terminology of what the module wants you to do, and that's really about it. Sorry it took so long for me to explain the stuff at the beginning and whatnot, but it is necessary, trust me. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to stay crazy, stay cool, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.